Hi there. Well, I've got an engine to share with you today which I've always fancied getting, and I've never really been able to justify it, but some kind person donated it to the channel along with another engine which we'll see at another date, and I'm very grateful to that kind of gesture. It's really kind, and so thanks very much, Russell. I really want to get this engine cleaned up and running. So let's take a look. It's a PAW, and it's one of the bigger ones, and if we look on the side of the box it says a PAW diesel engine 40 twin bull race. Let's have a look and see what we've got in the box. It has had a hard life though, so prepare yourself. Right, well here we go. We've got the original PAW box by the look of it, and we've got 40 twin bull race. I did wonder whether that said 49, but it's not, it's 40, and radio controlled. So let's have a look at what we've got in the box, and you do need to prepare yourself from this. It looks like it's got quite damp, but we can clean that up a little bit. And this is quite a nice, exciting beast of an engine, and I've always wanted one of these but could never really justify getting one, because I don't know what I'd do with it other than just run it in the test stand. But like I say, I've always wanted one because I just like the look of them. But as you can see, this one isn't entirely standard. I mean, we've got the lovely black anodized head, we've got a muffler on it. I think it's a fairly recent model, not within the last few years, maybe in the last 10 or 20 years. I need to look into that. But it has been modified. We've got a Irvine carb, which is, well, looking at it, it's been stuck in with JB Weld, I think, probably because this is one of the smaller carbs, perhaps off a 36 Irvine or 25, and so it wouldn't have fit in here, and I think that's been fitted in with JB Weld, which is a real shame. But I've been reading up and believe we can get JB Weld to soften, and we can get this out using some heat. But before we do that, we need to strip this as much as we can. Now, the other thing that's happened, and I have no idea why, but somebody's put another needle valve on the side here, which is, I'm fairly sure this is an early OS needle valve. So they've drilled a hole in the side here. There should be nothing there, not even a grub screw, and put that in. Like I say, I don't know why. I'm not going to pass judgment. At the end of the day, it's a lovely opportunity for me to bring this engine back to life. Now, at the moment, it's a bit dirty, a bit the aluminium's oxidized. It's sea solid. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is get some heat on this with a hot air gun, put a prop on it, and some oil, and see if I can gently free this off. Once I've got it freed off, I can start to strip it, and then we can go about getting this out and fixing this hole. Don't know what I'm going to do about a carb for this, but we'll see how we get on as we go along. Right, well, as I said, this is absolutely rock solid, and I've put a prop on it. It won't turn, but I'm not trying to put too much force, because the last thing we want to do is bend something, damage something. So we'll just take it nice and steady. And what I'm going to do now is I've got my hot air gun, and I'm just going to give this a blast with some hot air, and hopefully it will not only free up because this will be gummed up with castor oil, it will not only free up the castor that's seizing the prop and the piston, but I'm hoping I can strip the carb and take off all the usable pieces of the carb before I start applying some heat to the carb to get rid of the JB Weld. So I'll get this heated up now. I mean, you can soak these for a few days or whatever you like, but I always find a hot air gun works for me. Right, well, I've been heating this up nice and evenly. Let's just see. Oh yeah, that'll turn now, look. Oh, quite easy. Easy done. Now, I don't want to turn this too much if I can help it, but we'll get some of that oil in. And hopefully that will start to... There we go. Oh, that's turning nicely now. Have I been able to free off the carb? That's the question. Oh yes. Oh, that's good. So I've freed off the cylinder inside the carb as well. So I can start to strip this down now, I think. Right, well this is cooled down now, so I'm going to start to strip it down while it's still warm and get all these pieces off. Right, now if you've ever wondered how to get off a prop driver, I'll show you. I've got this lovely little puller. I just picked this up really cheap off eBay, and what we need to do is just get the jaws either side of that prop driver. We need to be careful not to damage the housing here just at the edge, and we need to put this central shaft on the bolt there. I did think about doing it without the bolt in, because the bolt comes out and just leaves the threaded hole, but I think if I do that I will damage the thread possibly, because it's quite a large thread. So we're going to tighten these up. I mean, hopefully this will come off fairly easily, but they can be pretty tight. So there, that is on that now, and all we're going to do is just use the puller to wind off. Oh, there we go, look at that. And now we've got the prop driver off. How easy was that? So I'll carry on getting this stripped down. Right, perhaps one of the jobs I'm most worried about is getting the back plate off. So I'm going to get this nice and hot, and then got a bar in the vise, and I'm just going to hold it and try and turn it, but nice and carefully, because we don't want to damage it, and it has got a bit of damage already on there. So see how we get on. Oh, there we go. That has just freed that off. Brilliant. Oh, I can turn it by hand now. Right, well, let's get this unscrewed. So I'm so pleased this came off easily and didn't do any damage. Right, that looks fairly clean inside there, to be honest. See, so I'm quite looking forward to getting this apart. I didn't want to take the cylinder out, even though it's loose, without first, because I didn't want to put pressure trying to turn it to loosen the back plate while I've got just a piston flopping around and a conrod. I could do some damage. But this will pull out now, and I put on a little, just a very little mark, I don't know where that shows up, just there, just with a file, just touched it, so I know which is the back of the cylinder, so I can hopefully get the orientation correct when I put it back together. There we go. Ah, looks nice. Doesn't look like it's had a huge amount of use, but who knows. It's still a bit hot, so I will get this apart now. I might wait for it to cool down actually, because it's still a bit flipping hot. Oh, and just a word on this back plate. The gasket is obviously shot, but don't throw it away. Keep it, because we can measure it to get an idea of how thick the gasket should be. Conrod is just lifted off. Just use these long nose pliers very carefully just to grip the outside of the conrod, and that's looking good. What I'm going to do now is get the crank out now. There's a washer there that's come off. We've got the prop driver that's come off. Sorry, the collet, and then it just pushes out nice and easy because it's still warm. There we go. Came out fairly easily. Quite pleased about that. Big old heavy crank. So Right, I've got this nice and hot now, and there's a ring in the front here that needs to come out first, and I don't know whether that's threaded or whether it's just a push fit, but I'm putting in my long nose pliers into those two slots, making sure I've got them forced apart, and that is turning, and I think that is actually threaded. Yes, it is. So that's good we didn't try and knock that out. Oh, that's hot. So that ring has come out, and now we can knock the bearing out. I'll use this piece of wood. Oh, and there we go, on the floor. Oh, and there we have a hot bearing. Right, well, the other bearing started to slip down a little bit, and I think I can just knock that down now. Is it? No. Oh, there we go. So both bearings out. Excellent. And the bit of JB weld came off the side with all the heat, and thankfully there wasn't much JB weld here, and that is now more or less cleaned up. So here's the JB weld that was on it, and it's very little, just to hold the O-ring really. It looks like that has been machined down a little bit. So anyway, right, well, I've got all the individual components here, and I'm really pleased how this came apart. I was worried it was going to be quite a difficult dismantle, but actually it was really easy. So, and everything looks in really good condition. We've got the pieces here that don't belong. The only issue is, I mean, we got the JB weld apart, that's fine. There's a bit in there still we can pick out. The only issue is this hole, but I think we can plug that without it showing, hopefully anyway. Right, now to clean these components up, I've got a jar with some, this is just pure methanol, and I'm going to soak them in that for a little bit, and somewhere, here we go, I've got a toothbrush, and I'm just going to scrub them with a toothbrush, and hopefully they will come up looking really nice. I think the prop driver and the back plate, we may have to do something else with that, just because it's quite oxidized, and probably also the crankcase, but hopefully everything else will be fine, and I need to get some new bearings. Right, well, it's been in there probably 10 minutes. Keen to start with the head and see how that cleans up. Now I'm going to put these long forceps inside the head to grip it, oops, rather than trying to grip the anodizing. There we go. Now, keen to do the head just to see how it cleans up. I mean, we can always touch it up if we need to, hopefully, but we'll see. I think it's going to come up nicely. Actually, it is looking nice. Well, I'm cracking on with this now. I've got the muffler and the crankcase in here, and they're just soaking for a little bit. I've given them one scrub. Now, I'm not putting anything abrasive on this, or more abrasive than my nail, to scrape off lumps of congealed castor and a toothbrush. The exception being are two or actually three items. The prop driver here I've mounted on my drill, and I've got some really fine wet and dry. I think this is 2,500 grit, and I'm going to put that under the tap and just spin it nice and slowly and clean the prop driver up, because I think it'd be nice to have that nice and clean and shiny, not too shiny. And also the prop washer, I'll do the same, and the back plate I'll clean up all this congealed castor, and then I will polish this. I will probably do it by hand, just go round, because it's quite heavily sort of marked, and I think if that's cleaned up it'll look nice. But I certainly don't want to touch the crankcase, or I'm not planning to anyway, although where the aluminium has oxidized it has left some black marks, so I might have a think about that. But there's nothing worse than getting an abrasive on a crankcase, to my mind, because you just see the marks. But I'll have a think about that anyway. So I'll get this prop washer cleaned up. Right, well, I've got the prop driver cleaned up, just took a few seconds really, and it looks so much better. I haven't touched the knurling because I don't want to lose the effect of the knurling really, which I would do if I started using an abrasive on it. Now, I said I wasn't going to use anything abrasive, but I've just been experimenting on the bottom of the crankcase because it's really dark and sort of eroded a little bit. And so what I'm doing is I'm just putting on a little bit of oil, and this is 2500 grit wet and dry, and I'm just practicing there and seeing what that looks like really. And I'm doing it on the underside because if it looks a mess or too shiny, then it won't be as bad. I'm not planning to touch the major part of the crankcase. It's just these lugs really. If I could just clean them up because they're so dark where they've been corroded. So we'll see how that goes anyway. Right, well, as you can see, I've got this all cleaned up now and I'm really pleased with how it's come up. The head particularly looks nice. I mean, there are corroded, sort of oxidized areas here where the blacks come off, but I think we can do something to make that look a lot better. So we'll see what we can do with that. Basically cleaned up prop driver, the washer, the back plate. I mean, there's still a few marks in the back plate, but that's where the machining is, so I'd have to actually get the machining out to get that out, but it's buried deep in, so it'll look fine. The crankcase has come up really nice. This was really quite dark and corroded. You can see that it's actually corroded, lumps out here a little bit. I don't know how well that shows up, but I've used really fine wet and dry just to clean up a lot of that darkness off there, and it looks better, but you can see it's been polished a little bit. So it was a real fine balance between getting it cleaner and looking better but not sort of polishing it too much. And I think, you know, it's always difficult to know when to stop, but I think I got it right there, hopefully. But that's come up really nice. It has got this 4mm diameter hole here. It's been tapped out to 4mm. I think we can plug that, and I think we can make a nice job, and not using JB Weld. Crank, great crank, really heavy, lovely. The piston and the cylinder have come up really nice. I haven't oiled those yet, but as soon as I've finished recording this, I'm going to oil those, and I'll put the piston in the cylinder just to protect it. One thing I didn't say, when I took this out, I put a little bit of a scratch afterwards on the back of the conrod, so I know which way this goes into the cylinder. Yeah, everything else you can see. So I'm really pleased and feeling quite positive that we can make this look nice and whole again, and I'm quite looking forward to plugging that hole. Well, I'm feeling really positive about this engine. I think we're going to get a really nice running engine that looks great out of this. So what I need to do now is order some bearings, because there's absolutely no point in putting these old bearings back in. And I think while I'm waiting for those to come, I mean, I'm going to draw this video to a close now, but I think while I'm waiting for the bearings to come, I'll do another video after this which will be looking at touching up the head, trying to make that look just a little bit tidier. We don't want to go over the top with it, and I'm really looking forward to plugging this hole in here. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, it won't involve any JB Weld. I mean, I think I got off quite lucky getting the carb out without a great deal of effort, because it was JB Weld, I'm fairly sure, but there wasn't much of it, which is good. So anyway, as I said, I'm going to pull this video to a close now. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this really nice big PAW diesel engine, and I hope you'll come back and follow the journey towards getting this in the test stand and purring sweet. Thanks very much for watching.